sinkholes. So divided into two sections. Within these 127 acres, 1.5 million people buried here. Population of County Dublin is 1.3. So people often say there's more people below the ground than above the ground. So it is a fact. It is known as the City of the Dead, or the Dead Centre of Dublin, Glasnevin Cemetery, but it's also Ireland's biggest open-air museum in Europe today. Of course, Daniel O'Connell, the Liberator, is laid to rest here. We'll talk a little bit about Daniel himself, born in County Kerry, year 1775, near Glasnevin. You can visit his ancestral home today if you wish, Derry House, the heritage site. Daniel born into a Catholic family, quite wealthy for the day, which is very unusual because of those penal laws. But one of the reasons why his family is wealthy, it's his uncle. It's a very interesting character. It's smuggling in his spare time and no interest in paying taxes. So he's quite wealthy. Daniel's educated in a hedge school because he's a Catholic, but his uncle decides, no, Daniel will be educated in France. He's studying in France, but the French Revolution took place. So think of the guillotine, the bloodshed and the violence. It's horrific. Daniel will never resort to violence throughout his life. Power of his voice or peaceful methods is what Daniel will use. Couldn't finish his education in France because of the revolution, so he finished it then in London, England. Now on the walls of the crypt, it's a timeline, significant dates to highlight what Daniel achieved throughout his life. And in 1798 in particular, he was called the Irish Bar. He's a barrister. But in that year, many of you will know that Lord Edward and Wolfe Tone are leading a revolt, the United Irishman revolt. Daniel agrees with their principles, fight for Irish freedom, but not their methods. They're violent. Of course, 1798 is inspired by the French Revolution. In 1803, when Robert Emmet rebelled, Daniel said to Robert, I'd rather have one living patriot than a cemetery full of dead ones. So he won't take part in the 1803 uprising either, because it's violent methods they're using. If Daniel was alive, we know him as a human rights activist today. He achieved so much throughout his life, like I said, all highlighted here on the walls of the crypt. And if you mention a few, when he founded Glasnevin, a non-denominational cemetery, 1832, he's known as the Liberator or the Emancipator. He achieved Catholic emancipation, the right for someone of the Catholic faith to sit in Westminster for over 100 years. That was denied. Daniel also worked for a fight for the rights of Catholic people. He's known as the champion of Catholic rights. He fought for the rights of Protestant and people of the Jewish faith. So in England, for example, he ended discrimination against people who were Jewish. He also worked to end slavery in the likes of America and the West Indies. The likes of Frederick Douglass, quite a famous name in American history, the freed slave, would work alongside Daniel when they're campaigning to end slavery. He also overcame attempts by the church to dominate the affairs here in Ireland, and Daniel was the first Catholic Lord Mayor of Dublin. So there's some of the things he achieved throughout his life. One thing he didn't achieve, repealing the Act of Union. So in 1801, the Act of Union is passed between ourselves and Great Britain. We're denied a parliament or ruled directly from London, and Daniel didn't agree. He wanted to restore our own parliament. The statue faces south on O'Connell Street. He's looking at the Bank of Ireland today, the old Parliament buildings. When they're in Genoa, Daniel passes away the 15th of May 1847. Cause of death was softening of the brain. Now Daniel has passed away. The last words of Daniel are written on the wall. There's two over here. He said, firstly, my body to Ireland. Secondly, my heart to Rome. And lastly, over here, it has my soul to heaven. So they're the last words of the Emancipator. If you take them one by one, they're very interesting. His body was actually buried twice within the cemetery. He's down the back in 1847, and he's moved up here by 1868. There's a few reasons why. They wanted to build Daniel a monument, that round tower, a monument to Daniel, and also it is his headstone. So to the Irish, the headstone was also built to rival Nelson's Pillar, and also Nelson's column in London. When they built this round tower, they realised Nelson's Pillar is a tiny bit taller. But if you look at the top of the round tower today, there's a cross on the very top. They gave it an extra few metres of height. So the Irish are absolutely delighted. Daniel's round tower is taller than Nelson's Pillar and Nelson's column in London at Trafalgar Square. The Wellington Monument is in the Phoenix Park, so that's the rival Wellington Monument. All the colonies in America then opened up a Catholic priest training college. One was opened and he lost all the colonies anyway. But they didn't know where to bring his heart. They said, well, we'll bring it to Rome, placed in the Irish College, but it was stolen around the early 1900s. Not for the heart, the thieves wanted the box it was within. It was worth a lot of money and they took it, they were attracted to the box. We know around the early 1900s they were renovating that building anyway, so there is a theory it was accidentally tossed in the bin. So we don't know where Daniel's heart actually is. Lastly, his body is here within this crypt. Celtic Romantic design. The Book of Kells and the Book of Durrow inspire the decoration within the crypt. Real stereotypical design. There's examples in marble, with the Kilkenny black marble here, this big slab, and on the floor green Connemara marble from the west of Ireland. So different examples of marble. This part is grey or gone dark in colour. There is a reason. Unfortunately, around 1991, the whole crypt looked like this as a result of water leaking in here. Between 1971 and 1991, we couldn't access the crypt anymore. There was a bomb placed within the base of the round tower. The bomb was placed there by a loyalist paramilitary group in an act of revenge for Nelson's pillar being destroyed by the IRA in 1966.
The women, most of the women. I'm buried there. Arch of Mercy.
So there's somebody, yeah, exactly. So there's some of the people buried alongside Daniel O'Connell. Countess Markovich was held in vault number 4 for one night, because when she's been buried on a Sunday, our gravediggers went on strike. Very embarrassing. So Countess Markovich was held beside Daniel in vault number 4 and buried then the Monday the next day when the gravediggers decided to come back to work. That's very embarrassing for ourselves at Glasnevin. So yeah, there's some of the people buried alongside. That's Daniel O'Connell's round tower and the crypt. We'll just make our way down this path and we'll go.
Before you go, will you ever appear that?
Yeah, there will. There is rumour. That's why there's a wooden door put across down at the bottom. Thanks for reminding me. They say the staircase is going back in. They've been saying this now for a number of years. It's a government project, so they've been saying it 4 or 5 years now they're going to restore it. But they've made progress to put a wooden door across. Apparently by this time next year, the year after, you can go up to the very top. It's 305 steps to the top, yeah. But on a clear day like this, they say you can see Wales in the distance. There's a photograph from 1969 of the mountains in Wales on the top of Daniel's round tower. So hopefully you can go up sometime soon.
Very good.
Yeah.
He quoted.
Is it? Look at me. I took the heaviest picture.
Bearing out, right?
Well, they're just behind Maud Dawn. Yeah, I'll point them out to you, yeah, no problem. So you can make your way down the path when you're ready. No problem. Here everybody recognises Eamon, a De Valera. It's a De Valera family plot today. When people visit Eamon's grave, they wonder why is the headstone so simple. There is a reason why. Brian, or Breen, his son lost his life in the Phoenix Park. He was involved in a horse riding accident. He was struck on the head by a low-lying branch and he was instantly killed. So Eamon and Sinead picked the plot for their son and they picked the headstone. He said it was fitting for a man of a young age, and if it's good enough for him, it'll be good enough for them. So that's why it's so simple. If we're wondering why there's money on the top, then people, especially soldiers, now people do leave money on top of the headstone, but soldiers, there seems to be a tradition going back a number of years. If they visit the grave of somebody like this, they place a coin on the very top. So that's why there's money on top of Eamon's headstone. You'll see it throughout the cemetery. So Eamon himself, born in Manhattan, America, many of you will know, 1882. His mother was Irish, her name was Kate. She'd emigrated to America. His father was either Spanish or Cuban. We're not 100% sure on his father's origins or nationality. But his name was Juan Vivian De Valera. Eamon, at 2 years of age, was sent here to Ireland. His mother, Kate, decided he should be reared here in Ireland, so his grandmother, Elizabeth, looked after him, and also his uncle, Ned. But Eamon, throughout his life, he won himself a scholarship to Blackrock College here in Dublin. He'd later become a professor of mathematics, so he taught in St Patrick's in Maynooth, Kildare, and various colleges throughout Dublin. In 1908, he joined the Gaelic League, so he's learning Irish. It was another Gaelic Celtic revival once again here in Ireland. Eamon joined it as an adult and soon became fluent in Irish. Sinead, or Ban De Valera, was a teacher of his, and they were married by 1910. In 1914, he was an active member of the Irish Volunteers. For some unknown reason, he was involved with the Asgard gun running campaign, but for some unknown reason, he seems to be a forgotten figure. So the Asgard itself, that yacht, is on display in Collins's barracks in Dublin. If you ever get the chance to visit the barracks, it's free, and so is the Asgard yacht. But Eamon De Valera did play a part in that gun running campaign, smuggling arms. Married at Covenham Jail within that chapel. General Lowe, the British general, gave her permission to marry Joseph. If you visit the jail today, you can sit within the chapel. Now, once married, according to sources, they were held within a cell. 10 minutes is all they had together. Now, prison officers were instructed, you count down 10 minutes on your pocket watch. And once 10 minutes is up, she is to be let out of the cell, and she was. Apparently they sat there in silence for those 10 minutes. But that's all they were allowed to have, the newly married couple. Grace never seen Joseph again. He was executed a number of hours later within the stonebreaker's yard. So when you think about it, Grace became a wife and a widow in a matter of a few hours. She never remarried. She wore an item of black on her clothing also to remember her executed husband. Joseph was only 28 years of age when he was executed. He's not laid to rest here. The only leader of the rebellion laid to rest here is Roger Casement. We'll visit his grave later on. Joseph was buried at Arbour Hill. So if you're visiting the Asgard, about herself, she's born in England, Aldershot in England, a father of Irish descent and an English mother. Then Maud Gonne herself, she published a monthly magazine. It's called Glasnevin, or the Women of Ireland. She also formed a revolutionary society for women. So it's Indian Heron, or the Daughters of Ireland. She heard rumours of an up-and-coming rising, or a rebellion, the 1916 rising. So she believed in equal rights for men and women. She said if the men are going to fight within the Irish Volunteers, the women can do so as well. It ends in a very romantic marriage proposal. He said, I spread my dreams beneath your feet, but tread softly, because you tread in my dreams. The guides here at Glasnevin, where we often say she never tread softly, she stood all over them and turned it down again and again. But a lot of his plays and poetry dedicated to herself. Her husband, Major John McBride, he's not buried here. People see this name, Sean McBride. That's her son. Her son, you might recognise the name, co-founder of Amnesty International and won a Nobel Peace Prize and a Lenin Peace Prize throughout his life. He was Chief of Staff of the IRA, but he retired. He wanted to achieve things politically. So he'd work to end discrimination against Catholics within the workplace in Northern Ireland. So he's buried alongside his mother. Major John McBride, of course, executed. He's buried at Arbour. Born in Liverpool, he had Irish parents, born there in 1876. Larkin will grow up in Liverpool and he'll be employed on shipyards or dockyards. Now, basically, he soon realises workers, no rights, no representation, and no compensation. People find it very emotional. Her husband was also executed. Tomás MacDonagh was rolled on the rise in 1916. She died the following year. Skerries in North Dublin, she was swimming and she suffered heart failure and she passed away in 1917. Her daughter had lost both her parents in the matter of a year. Her father in 1916, her mother the following year in 1917. So that's why people find it quite emotional. And the fact for the Gifford family, Grace and her sister Mira lost their husbands. Grace takes responsibility and looks after their young daughter. So that's why people that children, small name in European, never mind Irish history. Originally, County Sligo, the west of Ireland, Gore Booth was her name. She married a Polish count. She met him in Paris, France. She was studying there as an artist. His name was Kazimierz Markovich. The only female leader of the 1916 Rising. She formed two organisations. The Renmore ARA, number one, an organisation for young lads the age of 11, 12 years of age. They'll join that organisation and be shown how to use weaponry at such a young age. Cumann na mBan, League of Women, formed by herself. Just like Maud Gonne's Indian Heron, a revolutionary society for women. It's a lot more popular though than Maud Gonne's, so she formed that herself. There's over 98 Cumann na mBan members buried on this side of the cemetery. Then a garrison involved in the ICA alongside Michael Mallon at St Stephen's Green. They dug trenches within the green awaiting a British attack, but they failed. It's hard to believe it took them 19 hours to pass away. It was simply known as Der Rahali or Der O'Rahilly, and he led that charge up Moore Street. O'Donovan Rossa is familiar with the speech, and it's very inspirational. I hear it every day, and it still makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. So, more than welcome if you're still here 2:30 to listen. If not, it is on YouTube. Plenty of videos on YouTube of her speech. There's even an original footage of Patrick Pearse standing there. So you can have a look at that later on if you wish as well. And we'll move on to our next stop, Roger Casement. I know John will probably want to come up here with his group.
And here, by the grave of this unrepentant Fenian, we renew our baptismal vows. Here, by the grave of this unconquered and unconquerable man, we ask God, each one for himself, such unshakable purpose, such high and gallant courage, such unbreakable strength of spirit as belong to O'Donovan Rossa. We stand at Rossa's grave today not in sadness, but rather in exaltation of spirit that it has been given to us And we come thus into so close a communion with this brave and splendid Gael. Splendid and holy causes are served by men who are themselves splendid and holy.
Kevin Barry himself, on his 16th birthday, he'll join C Company of the 1st Battalion of the Irish Republican Army. Himself and IRA volunteers want to ambush a British convoy on North King Street in Dublin. They were gathered on Bolton Street, walked around the corner, coming down North King Street, and a gun battle soon follows. Kevin Barry himself, his weapon had jammed twice. He dived beneath a British lorry to take cover and unjam his weapon. The rest of his IRA volunteers were forced to withdraw back up North King Street. He was lying beneath that lorry trying to unjam his weapon, and a civilian at the time, a lady, noticed Barry lying there. She called out. She thought he'd be crushed as the lorry pulls away. When she called out, British soldiers identified it's himself, and he was soon arrested. Well, not all of them are here to catch Moran. Some of them are elsewhere, but they're all remembered here connected.
That's why you want to
He highlighted some of the most inhumane treatment imaginable of the natives within the Belgian Congo. So he worked for human rights. As much, the British Colonial Service recognised this, and he's made Sir Roger Casement in 1911. By 1912, he's retired from the Colonial Service, and in 1913, we often say a bit of a career change. He's now a leader of the up-and-coming rising. Joseph Plunkett is a member of the Military Council. He'll often discuss with Roger Casement. For a rebellion, we need ammunition, guns, and we need manpower. Roger Casement has the idea of heading to Berlin in Germany. He knows there's prisoner of war camps, Irish prisoners of war within these camps. We can recruit them to fight for Irish freedom. He'll also organise a supply of arms to be brought here to Ireland from Germany. Now, he fails to recruit men, but he does organise a supply of weaponry. It's loaded aboard a German vessel, but they disguise it as a Norwegian fishing ship known as the Oud or the Odd. Roger is going to follow behind in a German submarine. Firstly, U-20. That's very famous, that submarine, to sink in the Lusitania. But the day Roger needed U-20, it literally broke down within the harbour. So he put on the U-19, another German submarine. The plan of action: they'll land at Bannistrand, Tralee Bay, County Kerry. They'll offload the weaponry distributed throughout Ireland. They're going to be used in the up-and-coming rising. There's a bad communication system between the Oud and the U-19. The Oud arrived at Bannistrand first. Captain Spindler, the German captain of the ship, no sign of Roger Casement, so he gets quite nervous, anxious. He's a cargo of weaponry on board his vessel. He decides to leave the bay. While he left the bay, the Royal British Navy are waiting, and they intercept the Oud or the Odd. Now the Royal British Navy are going to bring it to Cork Harbour, a Royal British Naval base at the time. Captain Spindler gave the order to the crew, scuttle, sink this vessel. Down it goes to the bottom of Cork Harbour. By society, so that's been ongoing for about 40 years now. So every day or every weekend they're changed, but people leave their own individual flowers. It was his birthday recently, so he got birthday cards, Valentine's Day cards, flags, money, balloons, you name it, all left on Collins's grave. For example, this bouquet does signed the Yank. We don't know who that person is. It's either a man or a woman, but every week now flowers been left on the grave. He has his French admirer. Her name is Veronica or Veronique, a woman obsessed with Michael. Very nice lady, lives in Paris, France, but she's here a number of times throughout the year visiting the grave of Michael. She's been doing this now for a number of years herself. She's an art historian, but she's fascinated with Michael, so she'll spend thousands of euro each year coming here to visit Michael Collins. Very nice lady, but quite recently she's starting to go over towards Harry Boland until late. So she might see herself as a modern day Kitty Kiernan, but she seems to be having an interest now in Harry Boland. But it just shows you the example, the amount of people who visit his grave, and flowers from all over the world. Apart from his role in Irish history, it is to fit him once again, Michael Collins. School children in particular love Liam Neeson. They want to visit Michael's grave because they love to fit him Michael Collins. So it's very, very popular.
Yeah. That's lovely. Brilliant. Look at that's a lovely one there.
This is where they were brought and dumped. Now the names along here, they're more or less in the order in which they were executed. Sean McDermott, as some of you may know, actually was very bad from polio. So he was one of the last to be executed, and Connolly, himself and Connolly were executed together. Now Connolly had been wounded inside in the GPO while he was outside actually directing a few people where they were to go. And he was shot in the arm, and he didn't want anybody to see that he had been shot, so he more or less hid it and he had it dressed afterwards. Now the women in the GPO, some of them, they were very good, they were nurses and all that. And in other places, the job of the women, now the job of the women was to load the rifles, more or less in lots of places for the men, so that when they had exhausted the round in the rifle, they left it down and the women would come and they would put the ammunition into it and then they would take it up again. The only one who didn't allow women into his area was the commander of the 3rd Battalion. And at this stage, I'm sure you know, that was Eamon de Valera. He couldn't see any reason for having women inside, which was more or less, you know, it goes to show the kind of individual I think that he was. But however, now McDermott was actually, when they surrendered, now I'm not going to go into where the surrender took place, but it was more or less in O'Connell Street. More or less, that's where most of them surrendered afterwards. And McDermott had a walking stick. And when he was in the surrender place, he was more or less within the same spot, around the same area as where Michael Collins was. So when there was some of the soldiers who took the surrender, they were very good. A lot of them were Irish, of course. And a lot of them, I'd say in normal time, would have sided with the rebels. In fact, some of them are reputed to have said to the rebels, it's a pity you didn't wait till this First World War was over and we'd have joined you. And in lots of cases when they were brought into Kilmainham jail, where the firing squad was, the soldier who came with them, now there were Sherwood Foresters, 12 of them, who more or less 6 would kneel at the front and 6 would stand behind them. One man was actually given a blank cartridge. So the idea would be that nobody would know who fired the shots, which they were all supposed to think that they were firing blanks, which was of course because, I don't know if any of you have ever fired a rifle or a shotgun, but if you have fired one and there's a blank in it, you don't need anybody to tell you that that's a blank. It was as obvious as the nose in your face. But that was the story. The rising came. They couldn't go because it was given out in the GPO. They couldn't go to get their allowance. And unfortunately, or fortunately as the case might be, women are allowed to drink the same as men. A lot of them, because of this extra money coming in, they had developed the habit of going to the pub and having a few jars, which you can hardly blame them for. I mean, if you and I got a load of money tomorrow and we won the lotto or whatever it is, I'm sure we might be inclined to have a few more extra drinks as well. So this is where they were. So when they weren't getting this allowance, well, they jeered, they pelted, and they tried their level best to get at some of these people who were inside. They shouted at them, they yelled at them. And when they surrendered, only for the British Army, in lots of cases, made a line each side of the prisoners who were being marched down to O'Connell Street. And some of them, like De Valera's gang, they ended up in a different place. The women especially would have torn them limb from limb, because with the vengeance which they had, that they had ruined their way of life, and as well as that, along with the allowance, their husbands and their sons were in the British Army. Now the people of Dublin loved the army. They hated the DMP and they hated the RIC, which is why when the rising began, the first people to be taken off the streets were the DMP and the RIC, especially the DMP, because they, people of Dublin, had got a great hatred of them because of the lockout.
Show us.
The big place. Yeah.
She's a big responsibility.
Cheese.
Everybody here? No, I think so. Somebody listen, I think. I think we're all okay.
Quick. You don't have to. Your wife. Dad. I was thinking. Some meat and see everything. Is that really
You have enough footage in there when I get my... Our tour by Dublin bus has made it all the more interesting.
And Tom. How are you doing there, Joe?
taking your picture? Say cheese now.
I'll be on page 3.
What's the dinner? Dinner. Wine.
Doreen. Tommy. That.
Yeah, I used to eat them. I like chicken. It's mine. Put up the flash. Put up the flash.
So I give them 2 fingers. I'll hold it like a shot. No, I think
You know we're famous.
Oh, yeah.
Famous, right? We're famous.
Want of Catholics.
take yourself down the mirror.
Exactly. Give her a chance to do her hair, Joe.
Very with us. They're doing their business is great.
Everybody enjoy? Yes. That's good. Next question is, when is the next one? Yes. We had a great day out. Thanks to Tim over there, Tim Byrne. He took us a great day. He gave us a great talk. But the unfortunate part about that is he has exam sheets going back. From here to Galway, you have to fill out an exam of what happened during the day. Okay, I'd like to thank our committee for taking care of us for the day, especially to Mary. She did all the organising, taking the money and paying out the bills and all the rest of it. Very good, back to yourself, I'd also like to thank Eddie. He organised Tim, he organised Dublin, he organised all the rest of it. I suppose I was the one, I'm not looking for praise, but I was the one that was looking for the hotels. We won't give you a... Thank you. Such proud. Thanks very much to everybody. And we hope we'll be back again to see you again in the next year or so. Thank you very much indeed.
I left my old sweetheart one morning in May, and just as the liner was sailing away, I promised I'd meet her some fine summer day, where we'd kiss and embrace in the town of Galway. A beautiful Galway with your old fisher quay, where the waters of Carib flow down to the sea, flow gently fresh breezes across your blue bay, and carry me back to the town of Galway.